Resilience is the human quality that allows a person to be knocked down or even out by life and come back at least as strong, hopefully stronger, changed but not for the worse. In every episode, we examine what qualities make someone stronger, more flexible, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Next Set is committed to changing lives for the better. We hope you enjoy these podcasts. Welcome. We're here at the Next Set podcast today. We have Melissa with us. I'm really excited to meet with you and kind of pick your brain a little. Next Set and Revive specifically have been designed really for focus, attention. We have a big following with the military, PTSD specifically, anxiety, attention, focus. Next Set also is really at the forefront of supplemental nutrition for people who are really wanting to be the best in terms of mental performance and physical performance. So I love having guests like you on who can help us understand maybe a little bit more about human resiliency and the experiences that you've been through. So take me to the beginning of your story or your mission statement, maybe. Like what? Let's go for the big one here. What is what's most important to you? I would ask.
Do I need to
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you want me? Can you hear me? Good.
Yeah.
What's most important to me? Being a mom.
Awesome.
My children. That's number one.
And you're a mom to how many?
Two.
Yeah. And
6-year-old and 6-month-old.
Oh, that is a noble profession.
Yeah.
I'm a mom of 5 and 2 stepkids, so it's an admirable piece of work that never ends. You never stop worrying about them.
Never. No.
So tell us what motivates you on a daily basis. I know definitely your kids do, your children, and making the world a better place for them.
I mean, yes, my kids absolutely motivate me. What motivates me?
What gets you up in the morning and
my children are the first and foremost thing, hands down. But I'm thinking, okay, before I had kids, what got me out of bed? And I think before I had kids and children, it really was just this. There's just resiliency that I know that I've got this one life to live, or at least that's what we're told. Who knows what's the truth?
Yeah.
But I have this one life to live, and I better make the best of it. And it really started to set in for me when I hit my 30s. I think in my 20s, I just was, this is awesome. This is great. I wasn't thinking about the past as much, and I wasn't really thinking about the future. And now my 37-year-old self is hitting myself for that, going, gosh, I wish I could talk to myself in my 20s.
And what would you say? What would you say to your younger self?
I would say mainly just, to relax, probably enjoy life more, and to plan a little bit more, to really plan ahead for the future and to think of what I really want to do and to lay some stones and foundation. I was born and raised in a very strict Mormon household, and I was a bishop's daughter. And I always joke that all the rumors are true about bishop's daughters because I definitely went out and had my days where I realized, oh my gosh, wait a second, I don't have to live this way. Like, I can go out and actually do this. And I went out and I finally discovered, or tried to discover, not even discovered, I tried to discover who I was at probably age 17. And this was through ways that, give me a break. Like, it was dumb. Now I look back, I'm like, I was so stupid. But at the time, it was me just like a fish flailing in the water, not knowing who I am, what I really wanted. I was fighting with what I felt inside versus what I was told to do. A ton of dichotomy going on, and, 2 minds talking. And I was trying to merge them into one, and it was just chaos for a while.
Do you feel like that is a normal part of life? Now looking back, do you feel like a lot of young women have to make those choices and decisions to kind of break away from how they were raised or the style in which they were raised and figure out who they are as a person? Because we're in a society now that's so female-centric, so much more female-centric that those personalities and those attributes really have to come forward in order to lead? Like, is it a more common?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, it's based on how they're raised and how their family setting is. But I think, a lot of them do go out and make very alternate decisions just simply because they can suddenly, whereas they couldn't. And they're trying to figure out who they are. It's kind of like the pendulum swinging. And I always say, you're swung one way this hard and then you let go and you end up the other way. And then finally, eventually you're going to meet in the middle. But for a long time, you're just swinging back and forth and back and forth. And
I love that. I love that analogy. I think it's, I think it's so true as a mom and just as I get older that there really is no such thing as balance.
Right.
Like, I can honestly say I haven't been able yet to find balance in life, but I have been able to see, like, okay, this is too far this way for me. This is too far this way. And really finding your true north, like finding who you are as a person. How did you take those experiences at 17 and turn them into something that was valuable at 30?
Oh, well, I still feel like I'm swinging on the pendulum. I feel like that will never end. But,
I think you're right.
It goes back to the philosophy of I saw what I didn't want. And I think a lot of times, even in relationships and in life, we don't know what we don't want until we see what we don't want. Mm-hmm. Some of my most awful relationships, I've stepped out of and said, wow.
The contrast.
Okay, well, I can now see what I don't want. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting. You don't know there's light till you see dark. You don't know there's dark until you see light. I think it taught me exactly what I really don't want in life. I'm really glad I went through it. I definitely don't have a desire to ever go back and experience any of that. When I see some people now my age that got married at a young age, they end up getting divorced. They want to go out and really experience life. And so, I see them doing a lot of the same things I did at 18. And I'm like, gosh, I'm glad I got that over with.
makes you a lot less judgmental.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no judgments. I'm like, I am so glad I got that done then. On the other hand, I've made a lot of decisions in life that are not traditional. Especially in Utah, I've never been married. I have 2 children. I had my first child at 31. A lot of things that people were like, wait a second, you had a child out of wedlock. And so I've never really stuck to the traditional way. And I think that has played into even the way I mother, what I do in my life, the, volunteer things I've done. And
tell me about some of those volunteer ways that you've found yourself.
So some of the things I've done in the past, just to give a brief overview, it started at a young age. My dad was very into service. And so my dad was always taking me at a young age to go visit people and to go do service things. He had me shoveling people's driveways at a young age. And then I had the opportunity to go to Piedras Negras, Mexico with the Youth Link group when I was young. And I went there for 4 weeks and we helped really set up a community, or they didn't even have running water. That was huge. And then just throughout my life, I would run into people that were doing nonprofit work, and you'd say, yeah, I'm doing that. And immediately I would know if I wanted to be involved or if I didn't. And if I said yes, then I was jumping in full-fledged. Like I was 100% in. And so I'm still on the board of Healing Fields, which is a nonprofit. So they are a nonprofit that was created by Colonial Flag here in Sandy, Utah.
Wow, awesome. So that's a local company.
It is. They are a local company. They sell flags. Everyone go buy your flags from Colonial Flag. But they did start a nonprofit called Healing Fields. And every year on September 11th, they do the field in Sandy that has all the flags.
Right.
You've probably seen that.
That is just
that's
breathtaking to see.
That's
all the
Healing
people
Fields. And that's one flag for each victim lost in September 11th. And I'm the program director on that board. So
very cool.
Every year I put together the 1-hour program that we do. And I extended out the program. I actually now honor not only the victims lost on the day of the tragedy, but also those that have lost all the responders. We're losing responders daily.
As a result of them going in and inhaling some of those toxic
very, very
gases
sick. We've lost thousands and thousands of 9/11 responders. And so I put up a flag in honor of all of them. And 2 years ago, I had a few responders come and talk. But I always try to honor the responders now because they were a part of what happened on September 11th. And they still are a part of it. They're living it. And unfortunately, they're passing away. A lot of them are.
So the story that hasn't been told is really the first people that were willing to go in and risk their own lives
exactly
to save
and that was
somebody that they didn't know.
Civilians, and that was also workers. That was the police department, the fire department, anyone.
How did you decide that remembering people who have given their lives, whether it's in service to others or whether just being in a tragedy, was an important part of who you are? Just to, like, in our culture, I think we forget to remember. We forget to remember those who have died in the service of their country or died in the service of others. And we forget these rituals of remembering. I know other cultures, South American cultures, may be a little bit better at times than us of remembering.
I don't think people want to remember, in all honesty. And I don't, I think human nature is, yes, like once they get to the program at the healing fields, there's not a dry eye, right? I mean, human nature is, oh my gosh, these people died. This is awful. This is horrible. I am now standing here in this program. I am now being told to remember them. I am remembering them, and I'm overcome with emotion.
Wow.
Yet we walk away and we get so caught up in our life. And I think people don't really want to have to think about it daily. It's hard. It hurts. It's heavy, and it's steep. And that's why it's important for people, not like myself, but people that get involved to
absolutely
help us bring that back to the forefront, whether it be, once a year, whether it be, something that we can do to help remind us, hey, we get it. You don't want to live this every day and come to a 9/11 program every day, but please don't forget.
Wow.
Please don't forget that this happened.
So powerful. We really culturally need these rituals and to bring them back, to bring the remembrance back of these events that have happened. In my own life personally, I am helping refugees and immigrants learn a little bit about the history of this country. And they're astounded and amazed at things that have happened that we just kind of want to brush over. For example, we were talking about it's called the Triangle Shirt Factory Fire. And it was really what started all of work site safety, and it resulted in 145 young women dying in a factory in New York City. And still there are little remembrances of it, but we don't culturally pay tribute a lot of times to these things that have defined us as a nation, as a people, that band us together. I really like the approach that you're taking because I think it brings us to what we are as human beings. As human beings, the things we have in common are so much more important than the differences we have. We cry, we laugh, we have families, we want the best for our children, whether we're refugees, immigrants, vets.
Right, and it's important to teach
responders.
our children about what happened. I take my son every year and I have him help set up the flags and take them down. And I have him go around, and on each flag there's a tag with the victim's name, a fact about them, their age. If the women were pregnant, we had a little teddy bear on the flag. If they were part of the red bandana crew, we had a red bandana on there. And I walked my I have him there every year, but I walk him around and I read it to him. And I say, do you know who this is? Let me explain this to you. Let me tell you what happened.
Wow.
It's important for parents to educate their children and to bring them out and let them know the history of our country. But I think, I don't fault anyone for not talking about it all the time. I mean, 9/11 doesn't even really make sense. Let's be honest. And you can sit there and have theories about it all day, but it really doesn't even, it's hard to even conceptualize that planes ran into buildings. And it's just, sometimes it's you just want to set it aside and go, I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want to get into it of how that happened, who did it, who's behind it.
Right.
And then
a lot of the population was born now after 9/11, and a growing percentage of the population of the United States, and they weren't there when it happened, and so teaching them about the importance of banding together. I remember that hour actually, it was a few days from the first hour to a few days after. It seemed like the whole world came together. There wasn't a reaction, an immediate reaction to whose fault it was or who to blame. It was really a coming together of all hearts throughout the world. And those moments are rare, are super rare. But to me, that human resiliency is that ability to tap into that heart-centered uniting of, like, when a tragedy happens or when a tragedy happens to you personally. How has working in this environment helped you to understand human resiliency on a bigger scale?
Well, I've worked with veterans a lot. And so I've seen resiliency. The father of my first child, I have two, he is a veteran. And I dated him for several years while he was going back and forth from Afghanistan. And so I was able to see personally him come back from Afghanistan and him had to literally like reacclimate into society and then prepare himself a few weeks before going back to Afghanistan. And with that came this whole new world of veterans and friends and people. I've had a lot of people in my family be in the military, and just my personal experiences with that and seeing what people go through and even what I went through. I mean, even waiting for his phone calls and not getting the phone calls and wondering what's going on over there. It's just as hard on the family as it is the veteran.
Do we do enough for families?
No.
Can we do more?
Absolutely not.
How can we do more?
Oh my gosh.
As a society, as a country,
where do I even begin?
as a culture?
And that's probably 60% of the reason why I got into veteran work is because I wanted to also help the families. Shit rolls downhill. And when it starts up here, it starts rolling. And guess what's downhill? The family. Secondary PTSD, is that ever discussed?
Wow.
No, it's never discussed.
Give us a good definition of secondary PTSD for those of us who aren't as familiar with what the family endures as they're sending their loved one out to war.
Secondary PTSD is I mean, I don't actually know the exact terminology, but the way that I define it is you basically get PTSD from situations from someone else's PTSD. I mean, for example, let's say you're married to someone in the military and he unfortunately gets PTSD and he comes back and he doesn't get the assistance he receives and things get really rough in the house and the home and there might be situations that happen that then in turn cause the wife or the family to have PTSD.
It's interesting because after World War II, a lot of these soldiers came back home. A lot of them that were married came back home to wives who shortly after divorced them. And with time, those relationships were healed, and we see a reuniting of those couples. But it wasn't always talked about historically. Do we still kind of sweep it up under the rug?
Isn't. It still isn't talked about. And, I don't really see... I mean, I think it should be just as mandatory to help veterans reacclimate into society as it is with their family. I mean, I think it should be mandatory to sit down with the family and say, here's what you may experience, and here's some ways you can deal with it. And if there are problems or if troubles happen to arise, here are resources to help you.
Do we... are we set up in this society to deal with people coming back from such traumatic experiences? And how no. if you were in charge, how would you structure it better for reentry for these vets and their families? Like, what do we need to put in place?
Gosh, that's such a loaded question. I mean,
it's a biggie.
It's another podcast.
Truly. In a nutshell, what structure? Well, how would you restructure what we currently have in terms of sending these guys out, men and women out to come home and reunite with families who aren't experiencing that on the front lines, but maybe, like you said, the secondary effects?
Well, I think that it should be mandatory to meet with every family, every military family, by some sort of professional in that space. Psychologist, psychiatrist, someone that can talk to them and say, I want to educate you on what PTSD is.
Like a mentoring program?
A mentoring program. Yes, you
Very
have to.
cool.
You have to go through it. Like if you are a military family, you've got to go through this. It is a requirement. It's mandated. And then before the family is re-entered, there's like some sort of meeting with the family and meeting with the veteran and saying, okay, like are we some sort of something? Right? I don't know. This is a huge loaded question.
I
There's
like that
gotta
idea
be
of a
something
mentoring
that,
program.
yeah, that is some sort of a program that can guide the family as well as guiding the veteran coming back and helping them come back together. When a veteran comes back into the States, it might look cute on Facebook to watch them reunite with their family and their dogs and their kids, but a lot of them are not mentally and emotionally prepared at all.
They come back to like the triviality or the frivolousness of, I've talked to a lot of vets who they can't go to Walmart. It's just too far from where they've been just weeks ago.
And not only that, but when you are living, at least, and this is what I was told. I can't speak for anyone else. This is what I was told. When you're living overseas, you don't have the comfort of your family. You are seeing horrible things all the time. You literally have to brain train yourself to deal with this stuff. Whether it's compartmentalizing, whether it's going into a state of apathy, whatever it may be, you have to get yourself to a place where this is not traumatizing you on a daily basis because this is your daily life.
Wow. Which is no daily life compared to what we're
Which
dealing
is
with.
you, when you are with your family, you don't live that way. You need to be you need to be with your family in the now, in the moment. You need to be able to be open to feeling things and feeling love and feeling emotion and feeling potential pain and potentially having a difficult conversation with your wife if you two get in a fight. Not being in the mode of just blocking everything out, blocking all the pain out. I don't want to feel it. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to let myself feel it. Can you imagine if every veteran actually allowed themselves to truly feel everything that they go through on a daily basis?
I don't think they would survive.
I don't either. And I think the ones that do truly feel that are the ones that come back most impacted.
So they've really had to train their brain to just turn off and compartmentalize and segment parts of
I believe so.
Their
It's
situations.
survival. Anyone does it. A woman does it in a domestically, if she's in a domestically abusive relationship. She does it. He does it if he's being domestically abused. Any sort of trauma, the brain trains itself on how to survive. A lot of personality disorders are designed that way. It's literally just a way to try and survive in the state of trauma.
Have you experienced that personally where you've had to compartmentalize pieces of a really difficult situation and then come back around to have to integrate and learn from those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I have. A lot of times, a lot of difficult things have happened in my life, and I've even experienced repression and regression. And what's the difference between those? I don't know. Aren't they the same thing? But yeah,
Not wanting to remember.
Yeah, I have gone through some traumatic things and traumatic experiences, and absolutely, I have turned myself off completely. But feelings buried. What's that phrase? That feelings that are buried alive never die.
Yeah.
They don't go away.
Especially when you have children and
Right.
they pick up on kids have the greatest BS detectors. So they can pick up on how you're compartmentalizing or where you're compartmentalizing, and they'll often blame themselves.
Well, and the most important thing I think as a parent, at least for me, is I realized I have to, as a parental responsibility, figure out a way to process my shit on a daily basis, or else my children are going to repeat what I do.
So give us some tips on what you do on a daily basis to really recharge, integrate fully into the experiences that you're having now. Like, be present. Like, how do you practice that on a daily basis?
I really just concentrate on being in the now all the time. I have learned that control doesn't really exist. Control is not a thing.
Yeah.
And the more that I made it a thing, the harder my life got. And so I had to really convince myself and sell myself that there's no such thing as control. And once I let go of control and I realized, okay, what will be. However, there's also this aspect of we can create our own reality. I'm not quite sure how I feel on both of those, but Once I let go of control and really let go of expectation.
Of others or
And
yourself?
in general, I let go of expectation. And a lot of people say, oh, you should expect things. Well, yeah, I should. Yes, I should. But on the other hand, I don't. I really do my best to whatever moment or whatever happens to me, I say, oh, wow, okay, this happened. What am I going to do with this now?
Oh,
How am I going to process this now?
That is a really powerful phrase right there. What am I going to do now? How am I going to process this now? That I'm repeating that because it makes a lot of sense. I was listening to a DJ today who's lost 2 sons on the radio, and she said she used to ask herself, why me? And now she says, what now? Like, what now? What should I be doing now?
Right.
So asking yourself the right questions.
I know for me, I've gone through the why me phase so many times. Through even the births of my children. I mean, they were traumatic, and I thought, gosh, why me? Like, why? All these other women, they had these perfect pregnancies and they had these perfect deliveries and they could have these birth photographers come and they were able to take their babies home from the hospital. Why me? Why me? I've asked myself that so many times. Why me? And the reason I was asking why me is because I had expectations set on how my life was supposed to look. Right? I had this expectation that what was best for me was to have A, B, and C happen. But guess what? What if that's not what's really best for me?
So true. Like, I hate to tell you this, but so my kids are like late teens all the way into late 20s now. And, you hold these little babies and you just have these hopes for them. You just want them to be the best version of themselves. But when they get to the point that you're describing, like 17, 18, and they start to make decisions that are really about them, it really is a massive letting go. It's a massive letting go of expectations, and it is painful at the very least. So just in this stage of my life, I know exactly what you're saying. It's like, let go, get back in line, like line yourself back up, Rach, let go. One more kid, is making those decisions that are appropriate for them.
Right.
But, as I work with these young people, I remind them, your parents see you in the highest light, in the highest potential, and they want what's best for you. But at a certain point, they're going to have to let go of that and let you fly. And you may fly a different direction than they expect. So again, those expectations, as a parent, it's tricky. It's really tricky.
It's hard. Parenting is hard. I don't care what anyone says.
It
is so hard. I'm like, you are going to experience the greatest joy and the greatest pain of your entire life.
So
are you ready for that?
But I totally 1000% agree with you. When we let go of the expectations, and the faster we do that, the more joy that we can allow in, the more light that comes back into our life.
Yeah.
You've probably worked with a lot of people, specifically vets, who've had to let go of how they thought their life was going to look, because a lot of these guys with PTSD are never going to get over it. They may never see life in the same way they did before. They've experienced things they can't undo.
Yeah.
In your work, how have you helped people with their own resiliency?
I mean, the way that I went out and tried to help veterans was, I couldn't sit down with them one-on-one and give them a counseling session, right? Like, I'm not a licensed therapist. But what I tried to do, and what I did do, was set up events for them where I felt like they could be recognized.
Wow, which is very powerful, very potent. So you're saying to them, we see you.
Absolutely. We see you, we hear you. One of my events was having Chris Tonto Pronto. He was in the movie 13 Hours. He fought in Benghazi. He was the last one standing over the wall. I don't know if you've seen the movie. And I brought him to Sundance and had him do just a personal account. It wasn't a big event. It was just him talking to a personal audience of his experiences and doing question and answer. But it was just us saying, hey, we hear you, we see you. We want to hear what happened. We want you to talk about it. Them being able to share their experiences, I think, is probably one of the most healing things at least from what they've told me, is them being able to share their outlet. That's why they've created a lot of these things. And one event I did, someone named Tim Kolzak, who is also a veteran, he goes out and he takes pictures and documents a veteran's life when they are approaching the end of their life. And he, I mean, we had these portraits in these events, and they're absolutely beautiful. He does that because, yes, it's good for these other veterans, but he's healing himself. He's able to heal himself by helping others. And then
Did you find that in your own life, that as you reached out outside of your own comfort zone to help others, that your own healing took place?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I learned, I've learned how to heal my own self a lot of times through reaching out and trying to help others. I didn't even know the answer. There's a lot of times I'll reach out to someone and say, I have no idea how to help you, but I'll try.
Wow.
And during that process, I realized that they're actually the ones helping me.
That is profound. If you would just say that one more time, because I think it's the best kind of medicine. Just reiterate that one more time, what you just said. It's so powerful.
Let's see. I will reach out to help someone, and although I don't know the answer, I reach out to help them, and during the process of me trying to help them, it's actually them helping me.
That's so quotable, and you will be quoted on this. Just forewarning. What an incredible heart you have. The ability to give without an expectation of anything in return, like the true definition of service, or love for mankind, or loving your brother or your sister, is, that ability to step outside of yourself, expecting, like you're saying, nothing in return, expect no expectation, service without expectation. You definitely embody that. You can just see that glow about
thanks.
you, and your kids are really lucky to have such a powerful mom with such a strong heart, willing to serve veterans, willing to serve others who have given, maybe when they didn't even want to or know that they were giving, and that you would remember them, that you would pay homage to people who have given their lives. First responders who have given their service. Thank you so much for being here. It's been powerful.
My heart breaks for him. One of my best friends now is Mark Gillespie, and he was a Vietnam vet. He's dying of Agent Orange. And my heart just breaks for him. It makes me want to choke up. I want to do everything for him. I just want to mother him and be like, Mark, what do you need? He goes around and he drives around delivering pinto beans to everyone. And he created an entire company of snacks where he sends troop packs over to the troops overseas and those in war. And it's snack packs. He spends his entire time giving to others. And I want to spend my entire time giving to him.
That's so cool. To hear how people serve when they have no reason or excuse to serve. I was telling the story today. My sister-in-law's brother recently passed away of a brain tumor. And before he died, he wrote a book called Everybody Should Have a Brain Tumor, reminding people value what you have. He also started an ice cream shop here in Salt Lake for special needs people. And I thought, what a powerful example that is. When he had the least to give, he was willing to give the most. And you are one of those people who really recognize that giving is healing. Giving to others is healing.
Yep. Whenever I really get caught up in my stuff, I'm like, okay, this is my sign. Got to get out. Got to go do some service.
Wow. So leave us with a powerful or golden gem that has really driven your life or your mission in life, and guides you still.
I want to leave the place better than I found it.
I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Taking time out of your very busy schedule.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.